Revealed, 3 sinister true stories of haunted nights that will haunt you. For in Crestview Hollow, a once thriving suburb now wrapped in shadows, there are whispers that curl through the night air like smoke. And at the diner, where 24-hour fluorescent lights buzz and hum, a young mother named Sarah, 32, begins her shift accompanied by an unsettling chill. She is a single mom, fighting against a sinking tide of despair. The diner is her lifeline, but what lurks in the corners? It begins with soft whispers, sneaking into Sarah's ears while she wipes down the counter. Fatigue? Maybe. But they make her skin crawl, like icy fingers tracing her spine. She levels her gaze across the empty booths, her heart stuttering when she swears she sees a shadow dart out of the corner of her eye. It's just the flickering lights, she tells herself, as they pulse overhead, casting strange, elongated shadows on the tile, shadows that seem to flicker with a purpose. As her fingers glide over greasy surfaces, she finds a crumpled note tucked beneath her station. "I see you," it reads, a sick joke or something much worse. Panic tightens in her chest, she's being monitored, watched. The customers trickling in during her late shift sense the dark atmosphere, eyeing their plates while murmuring beneath their breath. Each day, the notes become more personal, chronicling her every move, weaving in and out of her mind like a spider's web. Fingers trembling, she shares her fears with Mr. Jenkins, a well-meaning neighbor with a kind smile but eyes that seem to harbor secrets. He leans closer, the weight of tales spilling from his lips about families disappearing under the cover of night, how the shadows sigh and breathe, and how nothing is ever truly what it seems. A knot forms in Sarah's gut. The urban legends no longer sound like harmless stories but terrifying realities. Then it gets worse. One late night, while the diner sits quiet, her best friend bursts through the doors, face pale and drenched in fear. "I saw someone, watching my daughter playing in the yard." Her voice trembles, echoing off the walls like a harbinger of doom. The terror settles deep into Sarah's bones. The community starts to shift under the weight of something sinister, friends now quietly suspicious, glancing over their shoulders in fear. Each familiar face carries an unsettling distance, like strangers hiding behind masks. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As midnight beckons, the diner feels more like a prison. The fluorescent lights flicker insistently, the shadows growing thicker, as Sarah steels herself against the looming dread. She can't imagine what will happen to her children if she fails to protect them. Just as she's about to lock up, another note slaps against her car windshield, a chilling reminder of the suffocating fear she can't escape. "I see you," it reads, simple yet loaded with menace. Heart racing, she looks up. Mr. Jenkins stands across the street. Watching. Waiting. The laughter of her children fades into echoes in her mind, replaced by the gut-clenching realization that the monsters may not just be folklore after all. As she grapples with the terror embracing her, the question lingers. What unthinkable horror awaits when night falls again in Crestview Hollow? Sarah's breath quickened as she stepped away from the windshield, the note crumpling in her shaking hand. The weight of Mr. Jenkins' gaze felt like ice drilling into her skin. He wasn't simply a neighbor, he was a fixture of this nightmare. The shadows around her felt alive, swirling and changing, closing in as she backed away. "Sarah," he called, his voice carrying a sweet, sugary charm that dripped with an otherworldly undertone. "You shouldn't be here so late. It's not safe." The implication behind his words slithered into her mind, sending her pulse racing. "Why are you watching me?" she challenged, unable to mask the tremor in her voice. His face didn't change, remained a mask of calm, yet his eyes slid from her to the diner, scrutinizing. "Just looking out for you, sweet girl. I know these streets better than anyone. He lingered on the last word, the sinister weight behind it sending a chill through her. With her heart hammering, Sarah bolted to her car, the night seemingly alive with whispers that taunted her sanity. She glanced back. He still stood there, watching as she tore out of the lot like a deer fleeing a wolf. The vibrancy of Crestview Hollow faded behind her, replaced by the encroaching darkness of anxiety. As she drove home, the weight of the diner's shadows pressed in on her thoughts, a suffocating embrace that left no room for peace. Each turn through the quiet streets felt like a descent deeper into an abyss lined with secrets. Her children, blissfully unaware, slept in their beds, and guilt gnawed at her insides. How could she protect them if she couldn't even protect herself? Suddenly, her headlights flickered on a figure standing at the curb. Sarah slammed on the brakes, panic surging as she focused on the shadow. It was standing too still, too composed, an image framed by the darkness. A hollowed gaze met hers. It was a little girl, her pigtails bouncing in the breeze, but her eyes were anything but innocent. "Mommy, can I play?" The girl crooned, her voice lilting yet empty, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. Her instinct screamed at her to drive away, but the girl stepped closer, enough for the glow of the headlights to reveal her face pale, with cracks like dried clay. "It's fun in the dark. Come out and play." Just as quickly as she appeared, the girl darted away, an unnatural speed that defied logic. Looming dread coiled within Sarah, spinning tales of what lurked in the shadows. Is this what Mr. Jenkins meant by safety? A playful ghost of a child, perhaps? Or something worse? Without a thought, Sarah turned off the ignition and stepped out of the car, heart racing. The world felt too quiet, too expectant. Shadows danced on edges, and the chorus of distant whispers rose, reaching out to her. "Where are you?" she called, her voice shaking, trying to grab onto courage, yet as her words broke the silence, only a haunting laugh rippled back. That laugh so familiar, yet so foreign echoed around her, and she felt eyes watching from every corner of the night. The air twisted, charged with electric tension, tightening around her like a vice. The girl appeared again, a swift flash of white darting behind her, and Sarah spun, instinctively wanting to protect her children from whatever darkness had seeped into their streets. "What do you want?" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. The little figure stopped and turned. "You don't want to play?" There was disappointment in that voice, a plea tinged with something darker. Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her, a promise of something unspeakable, something that shifted and writhed behind every corner. As she staggered backward, she realized that escape was not an option. Crestview Hollow was a trap, and she was merely another piece in its sinister game. And with that thought, the shadows stirred deeper, whispering her fate. Sarah's hands trembled as she realized she needed to uncover the truth lurking beneath Crestview Hollow before whatever awaited her turned to find her. What secrets lie buried in this town? How far will Sarah plunge into the darkness to safeguard her family? The laughter faded, but the chill it left behind permeated the air, wrapping around Sarah like a shroud. She could feel an inexplicable heaviness settling in her chest, and with every breath, the darkness whispered her name. She knew she could turn back to the car, lock herself inside, but something sinister pulled her forward, deeper into Crestview Hollow's clutches. "Mommy?" The little girl's voice echoed, now distant as if coming from another realm, lost yet beckoning. Sarah looked around, her heart pounding, the shadows twisting and turning with a life of their own. She felt trapped, encaged in a web woven from her own fears and regrets. "Please tell me what you want." Her voice rang out, desperation lacing her words. There was no reply, just silence that felt oppressive. The air thickened, and she took a hesitant step forward, the gravel crunching underfoot sounding like a warning. The girl materialized again, not 5 feet away, her eyes glowing with a strange hunger. "I just want to play. You can join us." Sarah's heart sank as the girl spoke, an echo of childish innocence shattered by the weight of something ancient and unearthly. An instinct surged within her, a realization that this wasn't just a game. The innocence of play was twisted, corrupted by shadows that thrived on fear. "Who's us?" Sarah managed to stammer out, though the answer clawed at her mind like a nail against wood. Play with us. The girl's face split into a broad grin that sent dread surging through Sarah's veins. Her mouth gaped wide, revealing teeth too sharp, too numerous, like a predator displaying its fangs. The world around Sarah began to distort. The trees loomed taller, their branches bending like skeletal fingers, clawing at her sanity. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of matching voices, fluttering in and out of coherence, mingling with the rustling of the wind. Play with us, join us forever. Just as Sarah took a step backward, her foot struck something solid. She looked down, her blood running cold as she saw the toys scattered on the pavement, brittle dolls with cracked porcelain faces, bears with matted fur, and forgotten trinkets that felt charged with an unseen energy. Her grandmother had once told tales of children who disappeared in Crestview Hollow. They became shadows among shadows, trapped in a forever playdate with unspeakable horrors. No. I want my children safe. Sarah cried, but the girl merely tilted her head, confusion clouding her gaze. The laughter began again, rising up, enveloping Sarah in a primal panic. Mommy! Don't you want to play too? The girl reached out, fingers stretching impossibly long, and Sarah felt her heart plummet. Was it too late? Were they waiting for her? A faint flicker of hope clenched at her mind, and she suddenly recalled something her mother had whispered about the town's spirit, a means to send them home. Breath quickening, she demanded, leave them alone, and I'll find a way to help you. The girl's expression darkened, her mouth twisting into a frown, and in that moment, Sarah understood the stakes. To save her children, she must confront whatever darkness bound these lost souls, unraveling the mystery lurking in Crestview Hollow, but what lay within the twisted shadows. Would the truth free her children, or would it cast her into a game from which no one could escape? As she pondered her next move, the air trembled with anticipation, and she realized the game was only beginning. Behind her, the shadows stirred again, restless and hungry. The weight of dread pressed down on Sarah, making her limbs feel heavy, like she was wading through thick, viscous mist. The laughter of the girl echoed around her, a haunting melody twisted into something sinister. She could feel its pull, a magnetic desire to join the forgotten, the lost. But she couldn't stay away from me. She shouted, her voice breaking against the oppressive silence that followed. An unsettling calm washed over her, leaving only the pounding of her heart, echoing in her ears, each beat a countdown to something terrible. The girl's smile faded slightly, but her eyes continued to shimmer, hungry and curious. You can help us, Mommy. You just need to play. With a resolve fueled by adrenaline, Sarah spun on her heel. She needed to find a way to reverse whatever dark magic held these children captive. She raced down the path, rocks digging into her feet. Each step echoed in her mind like a warning, don't look back, but the sounds of the hollow twisted around her, taunting her with whispers. Play, join us. They merged into a chant so seductive, she stumbled. She gripped her head, trying to shake off the allure, the insidious urge to surrender. In a flash of movement, something caught her eye. A figure darted between the trees, its outline flickering in and out of view. Was it another child? The stories of Crestview Hollow swirled in her mind, of children lured into never-ending games. She had to know. Who's there? The challenge tumbled from her lips, though she felt like a tiny leaf in a storm. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating, before a voice, older and graver, responded almost playfully, you shouldn't venture into the dark alone, sweet Sarah, we all play better in groups. Panic crashed over her, but she pressed onward, driven by fear. Just ahead, a clearing appeared, bathed in an eerie glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. As she entered, the world seemed to shift. The air shimmered, and Sarah squinted, recognizing remnants of old toys scattered about, wooden cars, tattered balls, even miniature soldiers posed mid-battle. It was a graveyard of laughter and musings lost to time. Sarah, the voice beckoned again, closer now, lingering like the scent of rotting leaves. Join us, or your children will play forever, without you. She felt her breath quicken, a primal instinct to flee bubbling to the surface. But a sudden flash of movement caught her attention, a shadow breaking off from the range of flickering light. "Mommy!" It was unmistakably her son's voice, thin and small, fraying at the edges. Hope clawed through the darkness, spurring her on. "James! Is that you?" The response was lost to the laughter that erupted around her, swelling like a wave ready to crash. The shadow twitched, jerking as if caught between worlds. Had he heard her? The girl from before materialized once more, standing between Sarah and the shadow. "He can't hear you." "Not yet. But we can help. We just need a little fun." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Something within Sarah ignited, a fierce protective fury that cloaked her in resolve. "No. I want to play your games." She planted her feet, demanding with every ounce of her being, "Let them go." The girl's eyes flared dangerously, and the shadows around them grew darker, swirling like a tempest. "Then let us see how long that vow lasts, Mommy." Terror gripped her, but she fought against it, grasping for the memory of her mother's stories, clutching tightly to hope. Suddenly, a cry rang out from behind the shadows, and Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her. Was it too late? What would happen next? A new storm brewed, and its arrival felt imminent, threatening to swallow her whole. The moment stretched out, and the shadows began to bend closer, eager to take their prize. As Sarah braced herself, she understood the truth: this was a game of survival, and the stakes had never been higher. Was she strong enough to face it? Would she find the strength to confront the horrors of Crestview Hollow, or would she too be lost in the abyss? A chilling laugh broke through the tension, and she knew there was no turning back. The shadows writhed, creeping closer, their whispers a cold finger sliding down Sarah's spine. She could feel the weight of the girl's gaze, as if it pierced through her skin, digging into her marrow. The laughter twisted with every heartbeat, melding with the thrumming panic deep inside her. "Mommy!" The word was a dagger and a lifeline, cutting through her dread with chilling clarity. "James!" she shouted again, her voice cracking, barely a whisper against the storm gathering around her. The ground shook ever so slightly, a low rumble that echoed with her panic. She couldn't lose him. She wouldn't. Behind the girl, the flickering shadows pulsed, forming shapes that sent daggers of fear straight into her heart. What were they? Lost souls? Trapped spirits? The stories her mother had told her flooded back, tales of children disappearing into Crestview Hollow, never to return. It was a reckoning she had avoided for too long. "You want to keep your boy?" The girl's words dripped with delight. "Then come play, Mommy. Come and be with us." The invitation coiled around Sarah, whispering promises of reunions and laughter, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. "No." Sarah's voice rose in defiance. She could feel the heat of her anger igniting a flicker of courage. "I refuse. He's not a plaything." Her eyes darted towards the flickering shadow, desperate for a sign from James, but the darkened shapes surrounding him shifted without form or meaning. "Then you will regret this choice forever." The girl's voice transformed, twisting into a shrill echo that resonated in the depths of the hollow. The shadows shrieked, swirling with a new ferocity, and a gust of wind tore through the clearing, sending debris scattering and Sarah stumbling back. The air thickened with despair, and dampness clung to her skin like fog. She could see the outline of James more clearly now, frail, his small frame pressed against the whimsical nightmare that encircled him. She felt the dread pooling in her stomach, a chasm of fear that threatened to swallow her whole. "Mommy! I'm scared." His voice was a fragile thread in the chaos. It pierced through the cacophony, igniting a primal instinct buried within her. She shifted her feet, balance regained, and summoned every ounce of will within her. "Keep calling, James. Don't stop," she urged, her voice a lifeline sworn upon love and desperation. Distracted by her plea, the girl flinched slightly, and Sarah noticed a glimmer of uncertainty in her twisted smile. That one tea help him, you're too far away, the girl taunted, pulling her fingers together like a marionette master. Shadows writhed, tightening their grip around James. No. Fueled by adrenaline, Sarah lunged forward, the distance between them shortening against the tide of dark energy. A flicker of hope surged within her. James. I'm coming. Stay with me. But the child was still entrapped, his eyes wide, glistening with tears that mirrored the horror around them. She had to reach him, had to break this curse, whatever it was. All around, the laughter melded into a roars of torment, reverberating so loudly that Sarah felt her very bones shake. The earth beneath her feet began to crack, splitting open as if the hollow itself was awakening, hungry for the souls that had once been devoured, and then silence fell, a deafening silence that froze Sarah in her tracks. The shadows stopped moving, caught in a moment of tension, poised for the next act of terror. Choose, Mommy, the girl said, now just a whisper, a soft malice in her tone. Will you play, or will you watch him fade away? The dark shapes began to pulse, contracting around James like a noose, the air humming with tension. Caught in the storm of desperation, heart racing, Sarah realized she stood at a precipice. The game was about to take a twisted turn. A choice loomed before her, and the weight of it pressed down like the darkest night. Was she truly ready to confront the terror of Crestview Hollow? Would her resolve hold in the face of the sinister play unfolding before her, as the shadows coiled tighter around her? Son, Sarah knew one thing, the next moment would define everything. What would she sacrifice to save him? And as the world tilted, where would that darkness lead them both? The shadows pulsed ominously, a heartbeat of darkness that was dragging her down. Sarah could feel the weight of the girl's gaze like iron chains binding her feet, her will to fight frostbitten by fear. Panic clawed at her throat as she strained to see James, through the web of darkness that shrouded him. James! Hold on! She shouted, her voice echoing eerily, swallowed by the quiet that had fallen. In that pregnant pause, everything felt wrong. The chill in the air deepened, and shadows shifted, stretching outwards as if they were gathering strength. They were alive, angry. Mommy, please, James whimpered, his small voice a whisper caught in a gale of terror, barely audible yet laced with deep-seated fear. Each syllable twisted in her heart like a knife. Don't you dare. The girl's voice slithered around Sarah, slick and enticing. You can play the game or you can watch him suffer. Which is it to be? It's simple, really. Sarah's mind raced. She was suffocating in options with no good outcome. To play, what would that even mean? The ground trembled beneath her. It felt like the hollow was alive, stirring. Was it awake? Was this its hunger? She could see in the shadows now, a flicker of movement that reminded her of writhing roots beneath the earth, crawling, creeping, closing in. It was consuming everything, every ounce of hope she clung to. I'm coming, James. She yelled, lunging forward. The shadows erupted like black flames, swirling to stop her, but she plowed ahead, fueled by pure instinct. She had to reach him. Glancing over her shoulder, the image of the girl loomed large and nightmarish, her form flickering like an old film reel. A twisted smile carved deep into her face. You really think you can save him? You're losing yourself, you already are. Fear coiled in Sarah's chest. She stumbled, nearly losing her balance amidst the dark tendrils clawing at her, but James' cries spurred her on. She forged ahead, not quite knowing where she was stepping, blinded by shadows and a desperate need to protect. Mommy! And then she felt it, a tugging at her very soul, a connection so strong that she stumbled again, almost falling. This time, she was sure. The shadow was reaching for her, not James. Whatever curse or game this was, it wanted her to join them. The shadows swirled around her like a tornado, pulling at her skin, urging her deeper. Let him go. She screamed, digging her nails into her palms until they bled. The girl laughed, a melodic sound that dripped with malice. Join us, Sarah. We want you to play. Look at how easy it would be. No. Sarah shouted, forcing her eyes shut against the blackness that threatened to swallow her whole. A moment later, silence fell again, thick and heavy. The girl's laughter faded, replaced by a press against Sarah's back, a presence that felt like icy breath. You think you can resist, little mommy? The game begins with a sacrifice. What will it be? Her heart thundered in her chest, her throat dry as whispers swirled around her, drowning her in promises of salvation and dread as faces formed within the darkness, twisted and gaunt. A terrible understanding seeped into her bones. The shadows weren't just there to scare, they were prepared to offer her a choice that no mother should ever have to consider. Choose, echoed a chorus of haunting voices, stretching her resolve to its limit. As she gripped the ground, her palms flat against the earth, her mind raced. What could she give? What would she sacrifice for her son? And in that moment of despair, the shadows began to close in tighter, reshaping everything she once knew. Everything ripped apart, and she felt the world around her spiral. What will you give up to save your child? The whispers froze her, just as clarity crashed down, melding with the dread that coiled around her heart. What if the price was too steep? What would James need to pay? Suddenly, the air thickened, pulling her into the depths of the hollow as her soul teetered precariously on the edge. Reality blurred like a dream, and the chilling realization struck with a ferocity: in this game, everyone was a player, and the shadows had an insatiable need for blood. With trembling hands, Sarah faced the encroaching darkness, her heart racing, questioning everything. Could she outsmart the dark? Or would it consume them both? As the shadows whispered promises of lost souls, Sarah understood the real horror wasn't just about what they might take from her but what she might become. The shadows writhing around Sarah seemed to pulse with a life of their own, swirling like storm clouds poised to unleash their fury. She gasped as icy fingers grazed her arms, a sensation so starkly foreign it sent a shiver through her bones. Her thoughts raced, a chaotic mixture of fear and resolve. James, she cried again, her voice fracturing in the oppressive hush. The darkness around her twisted and contorted, as if mocking her desperate plea. The girl steered closer, her form shifting like a mirage against a cracked horizon. You can surrender now, Sarah. It's the only way to end his suffering. Something deep within stirred, an unrelenting urge to protect her son. But the stakes felt impossibly high. What kind of sacrifice? What would the shadows demand? Stop this! She shouted, her voice cutting through the stillness, firm despite the cold fear gripping her heart. I won't let you take him. The girl's smile widened, teeth sharp and gleaming in the dim light. You think you can defy us? The darkness only grows stronger in the face of defiance. Sarah clenched her fists, the fury igniting a spark of bravery within her. Then bring it on. I will fight until my last breath. As those words fled her lips, the ground heaved beneath her feet. It was not just the shadows swallowing her, but an army of screams echoed from the depths, anguished cries of souls lost and yearning for escape. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she pictured James, trapped somewhere within the nightmare. Mommy! His voice echoed painfully, an innocent plea wrapped in layers of terror. Each cry twisted like a knife, feeding the darkness swirling at the edges of her consciousness. Join us, be free, the voices hissed, their words like venom threading into her psyche. No! She screamed, digging her nails into the damp earth, desperate for a tactile connection to something real. This was not the end, it couldn't be. With clarity cutting through the fog of despair, she thought of the legends told to keep children from wandering into the woods, the stories of spirits trading lives for souls. Was she already too far gone? Would she become just another tale whispered in fear? Muffled laughter broke through her thoughts, reverberating like twisted, hollow music. What will you give? The girl sang, her tone as sickly sweet as poison. The shadows closed in tighter. Sarah's breaths quickened, constricted by sheer terror. Each inhalation felt weighted, heavy with the impending dread of what she might have to face. No, she whispered to herself, the words barely surfacing over the rising tide of chaos. Suddenly, as if fueled by her resolve, a gust of wind sliced through the shadows. Light flickered, like a fragile flame in a torrential storm. Sarah straightened, struggling to embrace that glimmer, her heart pounding in time with a distant drumbeat. "James!" she shouted, reaching into the void as determination surged within her. The darkness around her shrieked. Branches of black night clawed for her, wrapping around her wrists, anchoring her in their grasp. The shadows were furious now, awareness of her defiance coursing through their twisting limbs. "Let him go!" she screamed, pulling at the shadows, fighting against their grasp, using every ounce of strength she could muster. They chipped away at her resolve, trying to drag her into an abyss of despair and surrender, but then she thought of James' frightened face. The certainty pushed her forward, a shield against the encroaching darkness. With every screaming heartbeat, she felt herself slipping. Was it into darkness, or could there be light at the other end? And then, a sharp crack exploded through the void. The air splintered, a pulse of blinding light illuminating the shadows momentarily. For a fleeting second, she glimpsed a path of faint shimmer guiding her toward James. But could she trust it? Was it merely a trick of the shadows, a desperate illusion designed to lead her astray? "Run!" A voice pierced the silence. Was it James? Heart racing, Sarah took her first step into the uncharted light, teetering between hope and horror. As she moved, the shadows screamed in fury, losing their hold on her. But their grip did not loosen easily. Questions gnawed at her. How far would she have to go? What might she lose in chasing this fleeting spark? And as she plunged into the unknown, she felt the unmistakable pull of darkness behind her. Was she running towards salvation or straight into a deeper trap? As the shadows writhed and roared, her resolve wavered once more. In those final moments, Sarah realized the dance with darkness was only just beginning, and the price would be higher than she ever imagined. Would she emerge on the other side whole, or would she be forced to sacrifice a part of herself forever? The ground beneath Sarah's feet cracked open, a deep chasm forming with a rumbling growl. She felt it beckon her, whispering dark promises laced with dread. "Go deeper." The voices urged, a cacophony of despair. With a deep breath, she pressed forward, propelled by a mix of instinct and the raw need to find James. The brief light had shown her the path, but it quickly faded, leaving her adrift in a swirling sea of shadows. The air felt stale, every breath thickening with the remnants of screams she could only begin to fathom. "James!" she called one more time, desperation flooding her voice. The shadows responded with a shudder, rippling around her like a monstrous wave about to crash. Then she heard his laughter, agonized and distorted, reverberated through the darkness. "Mommy! Help me!" Each word sliced through her heart, urgency clawing at her insides like a wild animal desperate to escape. "Hold on!" she cried, though doubt gnawed at the edges of her bravery. Could she find him in this nightmare? What if she lost him before she even had a chance? The twinkling light reappeared again, struggling against the dense cover of darkness. It flickered with uncertainty, teasing her forward. She sprinted towards it, the shadows curling and snapping, angry and spitting. "Join us, be free," they hissed, their voices morphing into sinister laughter, circling her like vultures. "Shut up!" Sarah yelled, a surge of defiance coursing through her. The air crackled with tension, and the shadows seemed to shrink back, momentarily appeased by her stand, but even with her boldness, fear gnawed at her insides. Every moan and echo around her whispered haunting secrets of those who had come before. The ones who had believed the darkness was salvation only to be swallowed whole. "James! Mommy!" Their voices intertwined, growing louder, more frantic. A shiver seized her. Was there really a way to reach him? As the darkness seemed to pulsate, a wave of cold rushed over her, and she felt the shadows grip tighten as if they sought to snag her soul. Her heart pounded as she raced toward the flickering light, but it felt like running on a treadmill. The closer she got, the further it seemed to drift, like a mirage in a desert of despair. Tears blurred her vision, and she squeezed her eyes shut momentarily, willing herself to focus. "Sarah," a voice echoed softly, almost tenderly. The girl from before emerged briefly, her eyes sparkling like black holes. "You know what you must do. Surrender is your only choice." "No!" Sarah shouted, shaking her head furiously. "I want to let you take him. I will never give in to darkness." Then the shadows surged, engulfing her in a cocoon of despair. They wrapped tight, constricting around her throat. Panic clawed at her chest, she could barely breathe as the dark tightened its stranglehold. "Does he deserve you?" the girl whispered, her voice serpentine and alluring. "Your love isn't strong enough to save him. Not here, not in this world." A surge of energy flared within Sarah, ignited by the resolve not to be made a martyr for the shadows. "James!" she cried out again, this time not for him, but for herself. The energy surrounded her like armor, propelling her northward, a warmth blooming inside her chest, defying all that wanted to consume her. The shadows writhed, screeching in frustration, and she pressed through, feeling the heat of an unseen force catapulting her towards the light with unwavering strength. But how long would it hold? As she broke free into that fleeting glow, she stumbled, her surroundings shifting. The light faded, rerouting her path, and the panic raced back heavier than ever. She found herself standing at the edge of a dark forest, the towering trees looming ominously. Her heart raced like a wild drum. The path swung sharply, and she hesitated, aware the shadows were regrouping behind her. What lay ahead? Was this where she would find James, or would she inevitably plunge deeper into the dark? With the chilling wind swirling around her, Sarah took a deep breath. It was time to decide: cross into the unknown or allow the creeping evil to reclaim her. The decision weighed heavily as she stepped forward. What awaited her in that forest? The voices of torment began to echo again, blending with her fervent hope. Was this treacherous path the answer, or merely the first step into a darkness she might not escape? The moment Sarah crossed the threshold into the dark forest, a chilling silence tightened around her like a noose. The trees loomed tall and twisted, their branches clawing at the sky as if pleading for release from the shadows. Each step crunched beneath her feet, the sound echoing starkly in the tense stillness. "James!" she called again, her voice trembling. The woods swallowed her words, devouring them as the shadows danced hungrily around her. The narrowing path twisted ahead, almost as if it were alive, leading her deeper into the heart of the darkness. Flickers of movement caught her eye, a flash of something long and thin darted between the trees, too quick for her to fully comprehend. Her heart raced. Was it a trick of the light, or was something lurking just beyond her vision? The atmosphere thickened, a suffocating weight pressing against her chest. She fought to breathe, wrestling with panic as it clawed at her sanity. "Please, don't take him from me," she whispered, half pleading, half defiant. The forest seemed to respond. A low growl echoed through the branches, almost a promise of what lay ahead. It intensified, reverberating like an unseen beast circling its prey. Sarah swallowed hard, unwilling to let fear take hold. She had to find her son. With every step, the shadows became more aggressive, shoving against her like malformed hands. They whispered again, slithering words wrapped in temptation. "Give in, Sarah. He doesn't need you. You're lost here." "No!" she shouted, pushing through the weighty darkness. Remembrance surged within her, a memory of James's innocent laughter, bright and free. "I will never give up." The path forked suddenly, branches split in an unnatural way, almost forming cruel choices. One way led deeper into the forest, embraced by an unsettling whispering. The other path shimmered faintly, a flickering light that called to her like a lifeline. "Do it," the shadows urged. "Go to him, he is waiting." She hesitated, her heart torn between the alluring light and the dark whispers promising to lead her to her child. Doubt seeped into her resolve. What if it's a trap? She thought. The shadows had manipulated her before, shrouding her in lies. She took a breath and chose the light, racing down the narrow trail. With each hurried step, flickering darts of glimmering energy shot past her, illuminating the dense underbrush for brief moments. But they vanished just as quickly, snuffed out by the lurking shadows that hissed in frustration. Suddenly, she stumbled, falling to her knees. A sharp pain shot through her leg, and she glanced at the ground. Thorned vines, alive with dark energy, snared her ankle, pulling her back. "No! Let me go!" She screamed, but the vines tightened, their grip tightening like a vice. "Embrace us," cooed the shadows, echoing her screams back at her. "You are powerless." Just then, she felt a flicker of warmth at her chest. In the cacophony of panic, she remembered the small pendant around her neck, the only piece left of her mother. It glowed faintly, a beacon against the creeping darkness. "James!" She called out again, desperation pouring through her. "I'm coming." With a surge of determination, she yanked her foot free from the vine's hold, gritting her teeth against the pain. She sprang to her feet and ran, following the light which pulsed with an urgency that matched her racing heart, but the forest screamed with rage as she moved, branches snapping and shadows darting toward her like predator and prey. The warmth from the pendant pulsated brighter, guiding her, but for how long? "Mommy!" His voice cut through the mingled terror and hope. The way it echoed suggested he was close, painfully closer than she had dared imagine. But with each step she took toward him, the cruelty of the dark forest intensified. As she approached a clearing, the trees parted slightly. And there, in the very center, stood something that made her blood run cold, a figure, indistinct and shadowy, moving as if to block her way. "Not here," it hissed, a sickening tone mimicking her son's voice. "Not yet." With a sinking heart, Sarah realized the truth. Could she really save him, or was she simply stumbling deeper into a snare designed to crush her hope? The figure loomed larger, merging with the darkness as more shadows joined its sides, making her solitude feel like a death sentence. She was running out of time. Would she confront the horrors ahead, or would she yield to the terrible fear swelling within her? As she took a shaky step forward, the ground trembled beneath her, sending a shudder of dread through her veins. Would she brave what lay beyond, or retreat into the shadows that so desperately called to her, follow her into the abyss, and confront the truth waiting to be revealed? What horrors would come to light? As Sarah stood before the looming figure, a tangled mix of shadows and whispers surged around her, curling like smoke through the air. Fear clamped around her throat, a vice tightening with every eye blink. "Let him go," she shouted again, channeling every ounce of strength, fueled by a mother's undying love for her son. The shadows shuddered, responding like storm clouds before rain, retreating just enough for her to see a glimmer trapped within their depths. In that moment, she saw James's outline, small and trembling, fighting against the dark clutches that tried to swallow him whole. His face twisted into a mask of fear, and a scream lodged in Sarah's throat. "James," she called, each syllable a tether to keep her grounded amidst the whirlwind of terror. "You think you can reach him, Mommy?" The figure mocked, its voice layered with 1,000 lost souls, reverberating through the clearing. "He is ours. He always was." "No." The truth crashed over her like icy water. It was a twisted game, and she wouldn't play by their rules. She felt the pendant around her neck warm, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. It was a reminder, not of surrender, but of hope, her hope and her love. "I won't lose him to you," she screamed, defiantly clutching the pendant like a lifeline. The warmth ignited a fire in her gut, pushing away the consuming dread. The shadows wailed, slithering back as the light from the pendant surged, illuminating the clearing. The figure shifted, its shape flickering between forms, a grotesque reflection of James's innocent face and the darkness surrounding it. "You cannot protect him. Light only makes us stronger." Sarah refused to let terror take hold. With a mighty yell, she lunged forward, the light from her pendant flaring brighter. "Not today!" she cried, reaching out to James. Grab my hand, sweetheart. Heedless of the shadows thrumming around her, Sarah ran towards the darkness that tried to consume James. The moment their fingers touched, a jolt of electricity ignited in the air. A fierce torrent exploded around them, the darkness shrinking away, screeching like banshees. The light from the pendant engulfed them, merging with her love, her unbreakable bond with her son. The shadows contorted in rage, swirling like furious winds, unfurling against the brilliance radiating from Sarah's heart. No! They shrieked, their forms twisting and writhing as the light pushed back into the depths from whence they came. Come on! Sarah urged, pulling James closer. He stumbled but fought against the weight, with terror etched across his face now replaced by glimmers of hope. Watching as the shadows retreated, she felt invincible, their power disintegrating under the steady force of love, the purity of a mother's heart propelling them forward. Together, they clutched tightly, rising above the layers of darkness, and before them lay a path illuminated, shining brighter than any nightmare lurking behind. Bursting through the remnants of the shadowy embrace, they emerged into dawn's early light, warm, golden beams spilling across the clearing. Mommy! James cried, his voice breaking the haunting silence, now filled with warmth and safety. I'm here, I'm right here. Sarah replied, hugging him fiercely, tears streaming down her face. The love enveloped them soothingly, casting away any remnants of fear. Behind them, the shadows coiled tight, shrieking in despair as the last hints of daylight tore through them like a sharp knife, fracturing their thrall. You will pay! Echoed their chilling voices, but as dawn broke, their power dissolved into the air, leaving only a bitter heaviness lingering in the morning light. Hand in hand, Sarah and James stepped forward, leaving the darkness behind. They found their way back through Crestview Hollow, each step forward a declaration of resilience, determination, and the unbreakable bond of their love. The diner sat quiet in the morning glow, a forgotten entity where nightmares once thrived. Finally safe, they were home. The familiar warmth wrapped around them like a blanket, breathing life back into their weary souls. The shadows would always be a part of Crestview Hollow, but now, they had a weapon, the fierce love of a mother and son, shining brightly, stronger than any horror the town could throw at them, and as they settled together, Sarah promised herself, they would keep the secrets close, guarding against the darkness that lurked. Even as whispers floated through the air, they knew they had a bond forged in the fires of fear, forever unbreakable, always light. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the rest of Crestview Hollow, Sarah felt a calm within, a dawning realization that together, they could face anything. Remember to always put love and light first, for love is the strongest force against the shadows. Now, I need all of you to jump in right now. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to give the algorithm the fuel it needs. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of backing this channel, so let us make it happen.